Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial. Now in this tutorial we are going to be looking at some more UI based kind of animations. They're all to do with loading screens, so just by looking at the static images of the one on screen, or the moving images, sorry, you'll be able to see the top left one is a sort of take on the old Windows XP loading screen. Then the one below it with the circle going back and forth, I've kind of added a sort of watery kind of liquid looking animation onto it. And then the one on the bottom right, it's a little bit hard to see in this example, so I'm going to make the actual tutorial on that one a lot stronger, but it's actually got a little glow which is kind of going around. It's supposed to replicate the Windows kind of 7 or the Windows 10 kind of load-in circle, and I'm going to make that a lot stronger because you might not be able to see it. It's kind of going around there, a little glow, but when we come to the tutorial we'll make that a lot stronger. And then this little infinity one up the top, I've made a sort of circle going around when it kind of wants to play back. Yeah, a little circle going around where it slows down in the middle, and that was just like a little random kind of loading thing. So the next sort of 4 tutorials are going to be looking at creating each one of these. We're going to start off by creating this little sort of liquidy, sort of mushy looking circle. So let's dive on in. Now I'm going to go to that composition, which is over here, and you can see that just coming in here, we've got 2 things going on. If I turn this white solid on, we've got a white solid in the background. It's just doing a little autosave. We've got a white solid in the background and this shape layer. So if we have a look at this shape layer, if I hit U, you'll see that I've got some keyframes going on. Position and scale, which I've set. Now you can see that they're also red, and that's because I've also put a looping expression on both of these. So I've set the keyframes how I wanted to animate, and the animation would normally stop by here, but it actually goes on and carries on animating throughout, okay? So let's go ahead. You can see this position that I've animated and scale. So let's go ahead and start animating this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go File, and I'm going to create a new project. Yeah, I'll save the changes. And then let's go into, when it loads, we'll go into Composition and create a new composition. And I'll call it Loading Squishy Circle. There you go, Loading Squishy. I never spell circle correctly. Loading Squishy Circle. My composition is going to be 1920 by 1080, 25 frames per second, and I think 5 seconds is long enough for me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click OK. So as you saw, the first thing I wanted to do was to add a white solid. So I'm going to Layer, New, Solid. Now I don't want mine to be completely white, so I'm going to go to the blues, and I'm just going to add a little hint of colour in there. So it's got this kind of blue, very, very, very low blue tint in there. Now the values I've got, if you type in the hex code, is DCFAFF. And I'm going to click OK and click OK. So we've got this really, really pale cyan solid in the background. Now next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and rename this. I'll just rename it BG, and I'm going to lock it. Okay. Now next I'm going to go and create a circle. So if I hold down on the rectangle tool, select the ellipse tool, and I want to change my fill to a nice sort of strong light blue, and I'm going to click OK. I'm then going to hold shift and draw my circle. And then what I also want to do, this anchor point, I want it to be centered, so I'll control or command and double click the pan behind tool, and then that'll center my anchor point like so. So first of all, let's go ahead and do the animation of the position. So I'm going to hit P on this layer, and I'm going to go set a keyframe for the position. I'm going to come forward about 10-20 frames. So I held shift and hit page down, it jumps 10 frames. I did it twice, so that's 20 frames. And I'm going to click and drag so it moves all the way over here. And then I'm going to move forward 20 frames, and I'm going to Control C and Control V this keyframe so it goes back to the exact same place. Now let's hit N on our keyboard and play this back. There you go. So it's just going back and forth like a little ping pong ball. But we want to really improve this animation and make it, I think that's the kind of speed I want. So 20 is good. But we kind of want to animate it so it goes like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag to select these keyframes. Let's go to the curve editor, or the graph editor, sorry. I'm going to go to the edit speed graph. So I right clicked and went to edit speed graph. I'm going to highlight these again, and I'm going to click fit selection to view, and I'm going to easy ease them. Okay, let's pull this up a bit. So let's see what happens when now it's got these easy ease, these curves. So you can see it's got a little bit of a slowdown, but that's not nowhere near enough for me. So I want it to be, and kind of, I'm sorry for the sound effects, but that's just my way of describing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and I'm going to drag individually. So click off, and I'm going to click this point. I'm going to drag it out like so, and then I'm going to drag this one like so. So most of the movement, you can see the movement really peaks by here. And I'm going to do the exact same to this side. Get it kind of the similar height. So drag it out to about there. You can see I've just gone beyond that line. So drag it out to about there. Okay, now let's have a look at it now. That's cool. I think I actually want to accentuate that a little bit more. So get each one again, drag it a little bit. Drag it a little bit like so. And we'll go for the same thing again. On this side, drag it a little bit more. And drag it a little bit more. So let's have a look now. There we go. That's what I'm wanting for the side-to-side movement. So we've got that sorted. Okay, let's go back, and you'll see that our keyframes have changed to these little hourglass shapes, showing that they're easy eased keyframes. The next thing I want to do is I want to keyframe the scale. So if I hit S on my keyboard, and I'm going to shift press P so we can still see the position, I'm going to hit a keyframe for the scale here at 100 by 100. I'm going to come to this keyframe because when it gets to this side we also want it to be 100 by 100, so we'll set another one by clicking this button, and the same for the end. Okay, so when it's kind of at the end of its tether we want it to be 100 by 100. Now I'll move forward to about when it's dead in the middle, which is by here, and I'm going to unlink this constraint. Okay, so when we move it, you see it does it uniformly, but if we unlink you can do them one by one. So I want it to be kind of stretched out and thinned out as well when it's in the middle. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll come to the middle here when it's dead in the middle, about there, and I'll do the same. So I'll actually copy and paste that keyframe. Okay, so let's have a look so far. Okay, now when it gets to, because it starts slowing down when it comes to each side, I actually want it to start coming back to a circle a little bit earlier. So you can see it's only a circle for a matter of a frame. So if I come through slowly, you can see it's there for, it's in the same spot for a while, but still stretching back. So what I want to do is just before it really starts moving, I'm going to move this keyframe out to here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want to come back to here, come back 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Control C and Control V, and then come 4 frames either side, 1, 2, 3, 4. Control C and Control V, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Control C and Control V. So basically, I've just said it's 100 by 100 here, and I also want it to be 100 by 100 here. And if we play it back now, you can see it only kind of squishes in the middle. So even though it was kind of squishing too late before. Now what I also want to do, just for purposes of when we're looping it, I also want to make sure I go to the beginning and it's got a keyframe for 100 by 100 at the beginning. I'll explain this why we're doing this later, because basically we're going to be looping both of these, and if it hasn't got a keyframe right at the beginning and right at the end of the animation, it won't kind of work. So just make sure 100 by 100 for the scale at the beginning and at the end, and even though this keyframe is 100 by 100, these 3 are and these 2 are. So it's only actually animating the scale between these and then between these. Okay, what I'm going to do as well, I think I'm going to easy ease them just to give it a little bit more fluidity. So shortcut will be hitting F9, or you can right click and go keyframe assistant, easy ease. Okay, so let's just have another quick look. There you go. That's quite sort of bouncy, quite nice, quite animated. Next thing we want to do is we want to give it that watery look. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to come to the effects and presets. I'm going to type simple in there, simple choker, and we're going to click and drag that on. And let's have a look at what that does. So let's come to the sort of middle here. It's gonna, if I know, I'm only going to put this to about 1, or let's zoom in then. And basically, if I turn this on and off, you can see it's just eating in a little bit. And I'm actually going to put this to 3. I think it just eats in a little bit, and that can kind of help this look. But next, what we're going to put on is roughen edges. Okay, put this on after the simple choker. And now I'm going to turn this outline off by clicking this button here, so we can really look. So turning this on and off, you can get different looks. Now I'm going to alter a few. I think I'm going to turn the scale down to about 90. The border, maybe turn that up to about 12. Yeah, that's good. Fractal influence. You can basically play around and get kind of what looks you want. I'm going to keep this at 1. Complexity I'm going to keep as normal. And let's have a look at this playing back now. So let's click off and let's have a look. So you can kind of see it's got that kind of, not necessarily liquid feel, but it's got that kind of loose kind of feel to it. So you can kind of see it's a little bit more kind of fluid. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn motion blur on for the layer and turn it on for the composition. And with the matte choker on there, it's not going to show up a great deal. If we turn the simple choker, off, it would show up a lot more. But that's just to give it a little extra effect. Okay. Now, final thing I'm going to do. If I were to try and play this past this point, as you can see, it's going to stop. And what some people would probably think is, oh, I'll copy and paste all the keyframes, but we're not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten it to here. I'm going to come to position. I'm going to alt click, okay, with the keyframe still there, and I'm going to type in loop capital O for out, and then open and close brackets, okay. So make sure it's spelled like that, all lowercase apart from the O on out, and then open and close brackets, and click down here. And what that's going to do, as soon as it gets to the last keyframe, it'll loop the whole, it'll keep on going back. The time slider won't keep on going back, but as soon as it's done all the keyframes, it'll keep repeating them. And we're going to do the same for scale as well. So alt click, loop, and then capital O, UT, same expression, you can copy and paste it basically. Now if I didn't have, if I didn't have this last keyframe, okay, let's say it was, but there, it would loop these only when it gets to here. So it'd start looping these scale keyframes before it starts looping these position ones, and it would be out of sync. So you want to make sure that you've got for both values, you've got a keyframe at the end lined up at the same time and at the beginning. So now, if we play this through for the whole thing, let's just let it preview. I should only need to preview one because then it knows it's looping it for the rest of it. Yeah, like so. So it would keep on going now for the whole composition because it's looping that animation. So you've got that as long as you need it. So that concludes this tutorial. We've learned quite a few things. Yeah, feel free to check out the other UI ones, any of our other tutorials. If this helped, give us a like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Make sure you keep up to date on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram so you can see what else is coming out. And yeah, cheers for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.